Okay, so everyone, welcome to Media Club. And on Media Club days, we go over and do deep dives on very particular genres, types, forms of media consumption. And today is a very special day because unbeknownst to Calvin, he shall be doing the intro. Calvin, go now, intro.
Man, this show is super weird. Welcome to This Podcast is for Nerds. For anyone that's watching the video form of the podcast, we'll have some video from the show playing as well, along with our thoughts. So this podcast is for nerds. Every 2 weeks we do a media club, and Zach recommended this fucking show. A very formal intro for the show. So we watched Puella Magi Madoka Magica. Am I saying that right?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't actually know the proper pronunciation. I just know that this is a crazy ass anti magical girl show, and you can't say hi right now, but I'm doing a story of us right now as we're recording, some extra intro content for all the fans checking it out. What's up with the stories to make it more interactive? Go follow us on This Podcast is for Nerds. Google it. We're on everything. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're probably hanging outside, barbecuing with our mask on, 6 feet apart for social distancing.
That's right.
Get up on it. This podcast is for you. God damn it.
All right. Weirdly, I don't know if you listened to the proper pronunciation. I just know that. And now I'm hearing the story in the background. Did you listen to the Xbox episode? Because that one did weirdly well for our standard metrics. So
you know what? I purposely didn't. So I didn't listen to it, and I think I didn't want to throw off our metrics, so I didn't listen to it. I try to give myself at least 2 weeks once they air before I listen to it, because in the beginning it was you and I and maybe like people who love us. Yeah. And you know, I didn't want to skew that at all. I wanted to give some time to percolate.
All right. Well, yeah, weirdly it did weirdly well. So yeah, if we have somebody that's now a fan, please follow us on Twitter at This Pod is the number 4 nerds, and on Instagram at This Pod is for nerds. I'm pretty sure we have an email too, and I think it's thispodisfornerds@gmail. So maybe if you want to send in recommendations for what we should talk about or send us questions for a particular episode, you can hit us up there too.
And I will say that Tuesdays and Thursdays I will dedicate all of my online time to the socials. That way we just keep on keeping on. You know, I feel like that's what's important in the beginning stages, to interact with everyone. And we're going to do a lot more of that. So be prepared for Tuesdays and Thursdays. This podcast is for nerds will be for you. This pod is for you. We're going to start adding more artwork, more food recommendations, more random nonsense from Calvin and I. Just whenever. I'll probably send him a weird text and then post that. Who knows? These things.
I hope you do. So this week's media club was Puella Magi Madoka Magica, which was Zach's recommendation. And as I recall, you pitched it. I think it was kind of supposed to be in line with what we did for the last media club, which was Doki Doki. And I think that's a fair comparison as far as I think this genre is typically a very lighthearted one, and this series definitely turns it on its head. And I really enjoyed it, and I'm really shocked I had never heard of it, because apparently it's like a very, like, in the world of anime, it's very important. So
it's kind of weird, because when I found out about it, it was after the story had finished, and I think 2 or 3 of the OVAs had come out. So it'd been around for quite a minute before I actually watched it myself. And I think the name and everything about it turned me off to everything. And I was like, well, I'm not going to watch this. This is ridiculous. I think it's after someone had recommended The Little Witch Academy to me.
Oh yeah,
And
I
I
had
was
watched that before, and to be fair, I didn't like it. But
no, me either.
okay,
Okay,
cool.
this is cool. I just am not into this. And I think when I saw this after trying to watch Little Witch Academy, I was like, I'm not really down with this. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, holy shit, was I wrong?
Yeah. So let's do a quick rating, and if you'd recommend it, and then we'll dig into spoilers, because there's definitely a discussion that needs to be had, and it's a pretty complex show. So I would give it a 3.5 out of 5, I think.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. And this is made by the same guy that wrote the first season of Pscyho-Pass. So, if
Also
you,
another great one, which we probably should.
oh yeah,
do a media
yeah,
club on.
Pscyho-Pass is amazing. So if you like that show, I think you might enjoy this. I think if you liked the last anime Zach recommended we watch, which was It Invaded, I think you'd really enjoy this too, because it's visually very psychedelic in a similar vein. So yeah,
I think that's the part that kind of pulled me in before I realized how totally fucked the storyline was that it threw me off. It had the exterior, but then it brought in, and you picked some great scenes to go over for this, by the way, for the visual aspect. This is fantastic.
So I pulled this from a YouTuber. I will shout him out in the comments, but this is his review of the series, so I don't want to take any credit for it, but we will give him credit.
This scene.
Yeah. We should probably, I don't know, like where spoilers start coming in, so we should wrap up and then get into spoilers.
You know what? Let's say this, and we'll caption this everywhere too. We'll put it out there and make it very well known. Any media club episode is going to be a spoiler of something.
Oh, definitely.
Like, don't come in. Please do not come to this episode with like, oh, they're gonna do the usual nonsense to give their take on their favorites. No, this is Spoiler City.
Yes.
That'll be the hashtag. Nerd Spoiler City.
You might get 2 minutes without spoilers. Yeah. So what's your review, Zach? What would you
4 out of 5.
All right.
I think I would recommend it for sure, especially for those who grew up loving the magical girl kind of animes.
Oh,
because
interesting.
I feel like one thing that annoyed me as I grew up is that those kind of animes don't. Not that they don't bring in attention, they just don't age well with reality of life.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are people, like, I get it if you go back and you still watch Sailor Moon or Slayers, and it's like comfort food. That's one thing. I totally get that. But I can't watch Sailor Moon. Like, I know Sailor Moon and Cardcaptor Sakura have recent versions, but it's also like, okay, I don't know. I don't want it to be completely mind-fucking like what you did to me last time, but I do have some grit.
I feel like you did that, though. I'm just...
I don't know. Did I?
It definitely felt... I mean, it was super intense. And I think it was very complex. I think it was a mind-fuck in that way, probably.
Yeah, I think
probably not as bad as mine.
I think the one thing I will say about why I gave it a 4 out of 5, we'll get into more when we get closer to the ending.
Okay.
Because that's where it was still really good, but as a particular fan, I think I mentioned this before, I don't particularly like how stories end in certain ways. So yeah.
Okay, well let's get into it. So
I want your first impressions. You recorded me last time. I forgot to tell you to record yourself.
Yeah, I definitely did not do that.
Sitting down, when you saw the art, what was your thoughts? All of things.
So the original, I mean, I don't think, like, for me, shit doesn't really pop off until like episode 3. I think stuff starts getting really crazy. So visually, I wasn't like super impressed, but I didn't realize how old this anime is. It's a decade old at this point. So, visually, like, it wasn't like anything breathtaking, but it wasn't bad either. And then episode 3 is kind of when things, like when they get into the labyrinth, and it's like a whole other world. It felt like the Idwells from when we watched It Invaded for me. I was really blown away. It's so complex, and I just can't fathom how much work went into this show that we only got one season of. But you know, that's a lot of animes is usually like a one-off, which I appreciate. Yeah, that's kind of where I was on the visuals. They really grew on me as the show went on, I think, because it just got more and more complex and crazy, especially with the time travel element.
Yes.
Yeah, which was a huge mind fuck for me. I feel like I saw some of the stuff coming, but that one really, really shocked me, the time travel thing.
Yeah, when they got into the different versions of that in which Homer experienced, and I just her character overall, I think it's crazy because you go into the story thinking this is going to be about the title girl, it's going to be about Madoka. In a way, it is, but it's not. It's really about Homer and how she evolves over countless times of watching her friends die, countless times like losing, and how she starts off as a super timid girl in the beginning and then comes back around to being like this, I hate this term, but god tier wizard, and it's still figuring out a way.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just still just trying to find a way to like bring Madoka back, and it's crazy because you see these images and you see like the one just the scene we just saw right now before the time travel aspect. I mean, all of this was this is the playback right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is all technically time travel. My original thought, and I wish I had started off with this, was I never expected this anime you recommended me to be a sci-fi time traveling Kantian ecological like thriller. It has a lot of elements to it, man. Like, this show is surprisingly deep, and I still love Cube. I really don't care.
Oh, you're a bastard.
Cube is chaotic neutral. I respect it. I respect the Kantian way of thinking. Of philosophy. So, that was super weird. I just like it. It felt like the ball started rolling in episode 3. And it felt like every time there was just like more and more like being unraveled. We learned more and more about like what these girls had signed up for. And it's just super crazy. So maybe let's just kind of do like a brief overview and then we can cut into like our favorite moments.
Yeah, I'm down.
So it takes place in a fictional city. I don't have the name of it here on me.
Fictional city of Mitakihara. Sorry.
You're close.
Mitakihara.
Yes.
I've actually been working on my Japanese, and that's trash.
No, that was good. That's awesome. It's centered at the beginning, at least for the most part. The show is centered around 8th grader Madoka Kaname, and it starts with a dream that she has, and she sees this girl, and so she's like, "Oh, that was a weird dream," and she goes to school, and come to find out, this girl, Homura Akemi, I think is her last name.
Yes.
I'm so bad with these animes. Like,
no, you're good. I just looked at this too, and I just said this completely wrong. Mitakihara. I don't know what the hell I said earlier, but that was not it.
Anyway, she meets this girl that was in her dream, and she's super weirded out by it. And so she's kind of taking her around the school because she's a new kid, and she seems to know everything about her, which is super weird. And I think doesn't she tell her to be like very careful about accepting like somebody like to grant their wish? Doesn't she say that in the first
Pretty much.
episode? Yeah, which is super crazy.
When she meets her, she basically keeps telling her, without saying it, don't become a magical girl.
Yeah.
And, Madoka's like, what's going on? How would you know that? But it's kind of funny because when you think about it, this touches time travel, but it's also alternate reality because technically Madoka's power, or not Madoka, technically Homura's power is reversal, not necessarily time travel.
Oh, right, because there are just a bunch of alternate... But, aren't they timelines, though?
They're timelines, but it's like she jumps between each different timeline, and that, like...
Oh, I see.
Because every time
so she doesn't
back,
actually go back in time in her universe. She goes back to a different one.
Well, it's like the multiverse theory. Each time you jump back, you create a new branch. So, in a way, she's just creating new branches each time.
I see.
Has memory of each branch, but she's the only one who has memory because of her power.
Oh, man.
And which is crazy, because even Kyubey didn't even know that. Like, Kyubey was like, what the hell? Like... How do you know about me, and why are you trying to get in my way?
Right, yeah. Oh, I just want to go back. There's like a moment in here. It's just so visually stunning. So yeah, so she basically tells her don't become a magical girl. And like...
She's watched her die at least 30 times at this point. Like,
yeah.
The transformation of Homura from like the meek girl to like literally the battle-hardened warrior that she is when you first see her. She's literally doing everything she can to not have Madoka become a magical girl because she doesn't want her to see her friend die anymore. And of course, she has no idea this has happened. Right. And she also can't she tries to not reveal herself to the other magical girls too because it would corrupt the timeline, because she's already like tried every way possible to save her friends, and each time it just goes out and turns to dog shit each time.
yeah, it's terrible. But at that point we don't know this as viewers.
Right.
But then there's a moment where Kyubey appears and Homura kills it, right?
Yeah, she shoots him.
Yeah. Kyubey gets murked a few times actually in this show.
At this point, Homura's been able to stockpile everything. It's weird because every time she goes back, she's able to save and stockpile ammunition all across the city to get ready to fight this. So basically, the girls, when they get magical powers, they get handed an egg, which Kyubey gives them in exchange for magical powers. Unfortunately, what they don't understand is that egg is their soul, and if they lose it, they'll literally just die. And each monster that they go and fight, it corrupts their soul a little bit. And where we get into the weird loop of all this is every monster they're fighting is another magical girl whose soul got corrupted by fighting monsters. And all of the energy that's spent on fighting, Kyubey and his race are using to power their society. So it's a constantly regenerative cycle that he's been causing to make this happen. And so since Madoka is said to be the strongest magical girl in existence, when she gets defeated by something and her heart becomes corrupted, she summons basically the world ender monster mage, Walpurgisnacht, which is a German term. I forgot what it means, but I think it's witch's night. And people can go ahead and quote me and tell me I'm wrong, but I know Nacht is night, and I think Walpurgis is witch. And this is what Homer's been trying to avoid, because that's basically the witch that Kyubey's people or existences or whatever the hell this thing is on the screen right here will use to basically eat the earth. And so Homer's been fighting this cycle, and I think a couple of times it even showed that she told Madoka about it and tried to get her to not do it. And at the last minute, when it showed both of them dying at one point, Madoka kind of gave Homer her last life energy and said, no, go try again. And again, Homer had to watch her friend die. And that scene was crazy, if you can go back to that. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, you definitely should, because it'll make a lot more sense than the references that we're making right now. But that scene visualized Homer having to watch her lose Madoka repeatedly, and that was nuts.
Yeah, I think that was the hardest part for me, and it's something I struggle with anime when they're not grounded, traumatic events like that. And the first big one being Mommy. So
Yeah. Fuck, dude, that one, like, I literally stopped and was like, wait, what the hell just happened?
yeah, I didn't see that. Well, I knew something bad was going to happen, but I didn't know that was going to happen. So,
Oh, yeah, because Mommy was in there kicking ass and summoning rifles and everything. Like,
yeah, so basically what happens is Madoka has this friend named Sayaka, and they meet this girl named Mommy who introduces herself as a magical girl. She's got like 6 rifles that she just shits out anytime she battles, which is super cool. Like they just appear out of her dress. It's super weird. But she offers to show them what it's like to be a magical girl. And they enter this labyrinth, and she ends up fighting this witch, which is like a giant caterpillar, right? I think that's what it is. And so this is in episode 3, and basically it's seeming like they're going to pair up, and these girls are going to sign up to be magical girls with her, and things are going to be great. And then she gets her fucking head bitten off by this giant witch caterpillar. And that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. And
so,
it's the thing too where like they play the music as if it's the finisher move, and they get you, they evoke all the old feelings you thought of when your hero was about to win. And then no.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do not pass go. And I'm sorry, but you do not collect $200.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me with these animes, and I will say there's some sexualization of these 8th and 9th grade girls, which kind of weird me out. It happens in the intro, and it happens kind of at the end of the show where they're just like naked. I mean, anime does this all the time.
It was funny until like right now when I saw that, I forgot about that, and
yeah, it's pretty weird.
No, it's definitely weird.
Yeah. But yeah, so I have a hard time connecting with shows like this, where it's not grounded and traumatic events happen. Like Your Lie in April is more my style of like trauma based anime, because it seems real, but I think the show did a really good job of making the viewer feel what the characters are going through, especially Homura near the second half of the show, and Madoka as she struggles to figure out whether or not she wants to be a magical girl or not. So yeah,
this is Pscyho-Pass, by the way.
It is, yeah, because this is the writer for this show. I think.
Oh, gotcha.
This is another review of the show, and yeah, so I think they were just using it as a comparison. So this scene, I can't keep doing this, but there's a scene, and it's when we kind of realize what that little gem they're getting, or stone they're getting, is. They get these stones when they turn into these magical girls, and when they kill witches, it keeps them pure. It's kind of a vicious cycle. But there is a moment where Sayaka is kind of fucking around, and she turned herself into a magical girl just so that she could get this boy his hands back, so he could play violin again. And
mind you, once he feels better, he's a dick and like ignores her.
Yeah,
which
well,
apparently in every timeline that Sayaka makes this idiotic decision, she turns pretty dark pretty fast because he doesn't reciprocate her love or feelings. So
yeah, and she kind of loses it because a mutual friend of theirs starts going out with him. And this is another scene where she's just kind of completely lost all emotion. And Cube kind of recommends, you got to do something kind of crazy to snap her out of it. So Madoka comes up with the idea of taking that stone from her when she's about to battle somebody, and she throws it onto a passing truck, and Sayaka just kind of like becomes, I mean, essentially like she gets into a vegetative state, I guess is the best way to describe it. And that's when
using his like manipulative powers, like, hey, how would a rude thing of you to do to throw your friend away like that? And Madoka's like, what do you mean throw my friend away? I tried to use her from using her power. And he's like, haha, you don't get it.
Yeah, that is not what that was that you just threw. And we come to find out when you're away from your stone, you basically become nothing. You're kind of useless. And then she ends up turning into a witch, as I recall. So yeah, super depressing stuff. She kind of has a meltdown about it, and like I will say, the parents are very fucking casual about their eighth grade daughter being missing, because they get her out, like her body out of the labyrinth, but like there's nothing they can do. And so like people are asking Madoka, like, do you know where your friend is? Sayaka's like, your friend, do you know where she is? And she says no, and the parents don't seem to care. It's very weird.
I think that was part of her thing too, is that that boy that she made the wish for was really the only person that she had.
Yeah.
That felt like she could connect to. And
yeah, and as I recall, doesn't Homura warns Sayaka about doing this.
She does.
And at that moment, we don't realize it's because Homura has watched her make this mistake countless times. So it shows very complex and deep in that way, and I really appreciate it for that. I do have a gripe with some of the like one character in particular that they introduce, Kyoko. I really like that character, but I feel like we get like 5 minutes of backstory that seem really interesting, and I would love like. I haven't watched the OVAs for it, so I don't know if they dive into it more, but like I would love to learn more about like her father, who was a preacher, and like, you know, how she's like fighting the witches behind the scenes, and he's doing it in his sermons and stuff. Like I would love to see more of that, and I just feel like that character feels kind of hollow, just because we don't know. And we don't get as much time with her, so I feel like
that's fair. They didn't touch on that nearly as much. She was kind of like the hothead. She was like Vegeta. She was the hothead protagonist who was kicking everyone's ass, but really had like a heart of gold. And she wasn't the main point. And Homer was the one who's really just sniping people. So she became kind of a throwaway character, I think, at some point.
Yeah, which is a bummer, because I mean, if you're going to have an anime with, 5 magical girls and one of them is not used as much, it seems like a waste.
One thing I thought that was interesting they brought up, I think it was Madoka who asked, this round, the Madoka we see, starts asking Kyubey more serious questions about like, oh, did you know about this? Why would girls choose to do this? And before Mommy passed away, she asked Mommy, like, hey, like, why would you ever sign up for this? This is like a prison. And Mommy was, we find out about Mommy's backstory is that she was actually in a really bad car accident where she lost her parents. And she was clinging to life, and Kyubey gave her an option to basically either die there or become a magical girl. And Mommy was like, well, it's not, so straightforward for everyone. I wanted to live, ironically, even understanding what was going to happen to her in the future.
Right. Yeah. I think Mommy was, which kind of furthers my distaste for how they did Kyoko, because we lose Mommy pretty early in the series. I mean, her character is killed off 3 episodes in, and we get Kyoko for pretty much the entirety of the show. She comes in a bit later, but we do get her for most of that season. Yeah, I mean, I think I reiterated, or I guess I'm going to reiterate what I said at the beginning, was I like this show for the same reasons I enjoyed It Invaded. It's visually stunning.
Here's your favorite scene.
What's that?
Here's your favorite scene.
It is. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So Oh, that bread looks God. Food in anime looks so tasty.
I think we need to have an episode just about our favorite animes that have food base, and yes, Food Wars will be a part of it.
Oh yeah,
Food Wars will make you uncomfortable. I'm going to warn you that right now.
You've recommended it to me, and I never started it, so I need to do that.
It's probably one of the weirdest. Yeah. You know how anime has to take everyday things and make it stand way the hell out?
Oh yeah.
This definitely does that because it's food. All right. But really it's how people react to food and the standards in which people react to food in this show. That's what I think made it stand apart from literally every other cooking anything I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, that'll have to be a future media club, or we'll do an episode on like you said on anime food. I think
I want to just watch the first episode with you. Like I feel like I need to be there with you for this one.
Oh man, we might have to do a reaction thing. I think that would be fun.
Back to the task at hand, Calvin. We both love bread. I'm not gonna lie about that. Oh, because we're Purdish knots. That was a crazy boss too. Like of all the things that engulfing of that. So, and here we see. Okay, so if you're watching along with the YouTube, you'll see kind of what happens here. So basically, one thing we saw is that in this version of Madoka's story, or rather Homura's story for Madoka, she doesn't become a magical girl until like pretty much towards the end of the fight. In earlier iterations, I guess she became one earlier on, and so she used her wish for really odd things. I guess is the best way to put it. Not odd, but maybe not as in depth.
Yeah. And
this time around, Homura invites her into her labyrinth to show her basically how she's been fucking up this whole time.
Essentially, yeah.
And I think the way this ended was very poignant, and also in the way it kind of continued is very poignant. And I think I want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so the ending's very interesting. So I will say I just finished this anime like not 5 minutes before we started recording this.
Yeah, we had a really weird week where we just I texted Calvin early and I was like, hey, are we recording today?
Yeah, I had been binging this show because we had a long weekend this weekend with the 4th of July, and I did not get any anime time in because I was doing a lot of drinking, and I wanted a fresh mind when I watched this show.
That's actually smart.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the ending is this kind of. So do you take issue with this ending? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
I wasn't so much I was taking issue with it. It's one of those things where it has a great ending for this particular chapter in Homer's life, but yet the story continues.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's an infinite number of timelines where she didn't succeed, and Earth presumably is gone, and the race of Cube, whatever they're called, I forget. Do they mention it? The name?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, see, it's stuff like this, like that. No,
you're right. You're right, and I honestly forgot.
How long ago did you watch this? I forget.
Ooh. Oh, fuck. That scene.
Yeah.
I would say maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh man, it's super fresh in your mind. That's impressive.
I mean, the parts that stuck out to me were the parts that stuck out, and those are the ones where made me remember it and go, oh, holy shit, this thing is crazy. I recommended it just because I felt I similar, even though I didn't necessarily care for all the different layers of hell that went through on our last media club. I do like things that change, that are different than what you expect. I've watched, so you and I have both, you watch movies enough to when you know how everything's going to go, or you've watched or played games or watched anime or TV shows where when the climax is coming, when how everything's going to go. You can kind of read into it and know. Even the movies when we first started Media Club, I didn't expect Burning to go the way it did. Holy shit! Did I not expect Burn to go there.
Yeah, I guess we kind of have a pattern on this show of doing that, of kind of watching a non-standard narrative.
That scene was fucking crazy too. Like when mommy gets her head eaten and her magical like armor like disappears and just lets her regular body hanging there. Fuck.
Oh yeah. This show is just super heavy, surprisingly. I mean, I thought it was going to be dark, but I did not expect it to be so graphic like that scene. I think this is Sataya fucking things up, and there's Kyubey
getting
murked super hard. I didn't expect it to be that kind of grim. But yeah, I really enjoyed this series. So I appreciate the recommendation, and I guess I didn't really answer your question about how I feel about the ending.
Do you want to explain the ending before you give your take on it? So I feel like I teased it quite a bit.
Well, I thought we kind of outright said it, did we not? I
think we did.
Did we not? Okay,
we didn't. Like with the actual specifics, we definitely didn't.
Okay. So in her millionth attempt at getting Madoka to not become a magical girl, they battle what's his name again? Sorry.
Oh, not Kyubey, but
yeah, the main one.
Oh, well, Purgishnod.
Yeah, right. So Madoka comes up with the idea. So I think there was a point that we didn't discuss, but throughout the show, we don't see Madoka take up the ability to be a magical girl until really the end. Come to find out, over her dozens of attempts to get her to do so, or over the dozens of attempts to get her to not, Homura has like inadvertently made her stronger. And
that's right, because she's been like not denying, but every time she resets, it just kind of like it kind of stacks her magical ability. It doesn't erase any of it.
Right, yeah.
Because there's some things that Homura can't erase in resetting. That's why she's able to stockpile weapons and have such a crazy amount of stockpile, because she can not reset certain things, and certain things she can't actually affect. I forgot the breakdown of what she can and can't touch, but yeah, that's a good point. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I just thought that was really important before I continue on to kind of explain, because I think it is important to what the ending of the show is. So in this plane, Homura Madoka learns that Homura is just kind of like in this endless loop, and she will never have reprieve. And then Madoka comes up with the idea of becoming a magical girl and using her wish to basically get rid of all witches, magical girls, same thing, from every plane of existence. They're just completely gone. And in doing so, she kind of becomes a god, I guess. She doesn't really have a body.
She basically becomes like the cosmic form of what her witch form would be. So she's the good version of Walpurgisnacht, protecting people from being able to create a Walpurgisnacht, which is a lot. Because even in the scene we see right here, we see different magical girls that were dying and becoming corrupt and turning into witches, that she comes and basically rescues and takes away the ability for them to ever become one, because that way they won't have to share that strife. And she basically just takes on all of their corruption and balances out all of it.
Yeah, so the Magi never become witches. They fall into despair for whatever reason, and Kyubey still gets his energy that his race or whatever require. And then So there's kind of a, I don't know. So for me, the scenes with Satya and going back to see the boy playing violin, like that just didn't I don't know. That didn't really do anything for me. I don't know if it was supposed to. I'm sure it was, but
I just kind of was laughing at her.
I mean, I get it. It's like a beautiful moment between like a last moment between friends, because like she's gonna go on but not exist like in her body anymore. So yeah. So there's still these demons though, right? Like,
yeah, they've taken a different form now, and it's weird because at the end you actually see Homer hanging out with Kyubey, and their task is to go through and essentially do what Homer was doing before, only now when you fight, you don't create corruption, so there's no risk of you becoming the thing you're hunting.
Yeah, you're never going to be a witch.
People are still able to harvest whatever that energy is from the planet.
Yeah.
It's really weird because even then, like Homer states, no one knows what Madoka did for them today, but I know she exists and she's out there fighting with us, even though I can't talk to her anymore. But my friend is free and I'm free.
Yeah.
The fight continues, basically. It's just a different kind of fight.
And then
I was like, that's a lot to wrap around.
Yeah, no, for real. Madoka says keep it up to her. I think that's like the last line of the show.
Yeah, it says she transcends into a cosmic phenomenon called the law of cycles, which appears to all magical girls the moment before they become witches, and rescues them by taking them to a heavenly paradise, a new reality, which Homer is now the only one who remembers Madoka is formed. And she continues fighting in the honor of Madoka. And that's literally like word for word the end of the plot.
Yeah. I thought the show was great. The ending, is a lot to, I mean, this show is super complex. Like it was way more, it was one of those I was trying to like watch it in the background while I was working, like with cause I have it in English on Netflix. And the voice acting is I don't want to speak ill of the people that voice acted on the show, but it's not great. The girls all kind of sound the same.
Oh my gosh, it's won so many awards.
Yeah, it's crazy how many awards the show's won. But it was a show I couldn't really like. At episode 3, I was like, all right, this show needs my full attention. Once mommy died. So yeah, I thought the show was great. I need to see that. Apparently there's a movie, like a side story movie that came out last year, that I think we should maybe watch. Now that things are getting looser as far as requirements, with COVID. So yeah, any other thoughts on this, Zach?
Honestly, it's definitely one of the ones that I'm glad I watched, but I only really require, like you said before, it's still rather fresh in my mind. I only really require one watch through of it. Some of the ones I go back, like the comfort food I mentioned before, like Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo. This one was just a good ride. I don't really need to go back to like remember things point for point. And it's really weird how that is. Like even Pscyho-Pass, like I watched the first. No, I'm getting confused with Darker Than Black. I watched Pscyho-Pass. No, there's 2 seasons of Pscyho-Pass, aren't there?
I think there's more than that. I think there's a few. I think there's like 4.
Are they really?
I think so.
I need to check. I know about the first one. I thought there was a second one.
It looks like. You go ahead. You can keep.
Oh yeah, those are still super fresh in my mind. So if there are more seasons, I can pick that up and just get right back on it, because that's a great show also. Like, it's Minority Report meets anime meets like super corrupt society, and we can definitely get into that later on, but Pscyho-Pass is another great, like, it's on the dark, grittier side, sort of gothic noir, psychological thriller, but it's still a great show.
Yeah, it reminds me of Minority Report in a lot of ways. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, we were both like 10 when it came out, but yes.
Yeah, I remember that movie really fucking with me. And it's funny. It's by
Future Crimes Bureau.
Yep. Yep. There are 3 seasons of Pscyho-Pass, so you have one more. I think I'm
missing a season. Then I need to go watch it.
Yeah, I think it's on Netflix. So yeah, that was Puella Magi Madoka Magica, season 1. If you liked it, let us know what you think when we post this in the comments on Twitter and Instagram. And before we go, I guess I need to recommend something for us. So
I'm curious to see if there's anything that you could recommend that's actually like not psychological horror. Because I'm curious funny. Now. You've had 2 back-to-back movies that were badass. Like honestly, like those. I loved Burning. I loved Parasite.
Well, I'm glad you liked them. I'm really glad you liked them. No, it's funny. So it's by the same director. I was going to recommend one of his other movies that's a little more intense, but this one's a little more fun than his follow-up. So the movie I'm going to recommend, we're going to do a movie, just because 2 hours is a lot easier to get done in 2 weeks than 6 hours.
Yeah, we need to start doing that for Media Club, like making more like single bites. And whole
I think every once in a while we can do a season of a show. I don't mind. I like to break it up too. I don't want to do the same thing. And I do want to say I'm going to recommend some reading here eventually, because I do like to read. It won't be standard stuff. It'll be like manga or graphic novels that are easy to read or quick to read. So anyways, I'm going to recommend The Lobster.
So that sounds super familiar.
So it's by the director Yorgos Lanthimos. He's like one of my favorite directors right now. He's done this. He's done Killing of a Sacred Deer. He did the movie Alps, Dogtooth.
Isn't The Lobster the one where you have to figure out?
Oh, you do know?
Yeah, I saw the preview for it actually, and that looked really interesting.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so the basic plot, I don't want to get into too much because it's very good, and it's one of my favorite movies from this year that it came out. And it's got a stacked cast. It's got Colin Farrell,
it's awesome.
Rachel Weisz, Olivia Colman, one of my favorite actresses, John C. Reilly, Ben Whishaw, who's kind of blown up since this movie came out. But
can we also say how crazy it is? If you look at John C. Reilly's like IMDb, he's been in so many more things than I thought, and he's able to like transition so well.
Oh yeah. He is one of my favorites because he's super funny, obviously, but his like serious work, his little like indie movies that he does like this it becomes my favorite role that he's ever been in. Like I love Step Brothers, but like his performance in this, I think almost beats it. But basically the very simple plot of the movie, I don't want to get into too much because it's a very weird, Yorgos Lanthimos is a very weird director, and none of his movies are normal. Probably his biggest movie wasn't Dogtooth. It was probably The Favorite. That was like a Oscar contender 2 years ago. But basically the movie is single people are given 45 days to find a romantic partner, or they get turned into an animal. And I will leave it at that.
Yes.
The Lobster is available on Netflix. So check it out. And that's all I've got.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us once again. The Media Club episode of This Podcast is for Nerds. This Podcast for Nerds is brought to you by Calvin and me. I didn't plan that at all.
That was beautiful. That was a beautiful little outro there. We'll leave it at that.